They knew what they were doing. We didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
We didn't know what they were doing. We didn't know the spirits that they were tapping into.
Oh my gosh.
We didn't know that they were gatekeepers. So we didn't know they were opening our youth up for what we're seeing right now. Now, what we're seeing right now is a generation that could care less about anything.
You ever wonder why rap and hip hop got the younger generation in a chokehold? Then you need to watch this.
You're saying a few things, and I don't want to jump all around, but you talk about hip hop culture, and there was in the messages you were talk about. It's not just the music, but everything from the dress, the things, the language, and all of that. When you go back, when you look at the origins of hip hop, some would say, but there was a time though that hip hop culture wasn't what it is now. Like, was hip hop corrupted, or was hip hop always on its way towards corruption? Like, was it good at the foundations? Meaning, if we were to go back to where hip hop was at its inception, would it then be something that could be acceptable?
Not at all. Hip hop was corrupt in its creation because the creators and founders of it were corrupt. So African Bambaataa went to Africa and he learned the ways of the Zulus. The Zulus are into ancestral worship. He brought those spirits back and began to make raps and beats about how those spirits, how powerful they were. That's what Planet Rock is about. You know, Planet Rock, don't stop, rock the Planet Rock. That's basically false god worship rock, because the planets into the Zulus were considered gods. And so from the beginning, it's been corrupt. When I was trying to explain it, people was like, oh, no, it's just beats. No, it's not beats. If you know anything about frequency, you know that it's never just beats. It's never just music. Music carries the heart of the author that created it. And the best example of that is in the Bible. King David, when Saul was troubled by the evil spirit, David just played. He didn't have to sing. He played, but because of his heart and his disposition, the spirit came and soothed the evil spirit and chased it away. That's because of who David was, a man after God's own heart. It's different when he plays versus, they didn't just go looking for anyone to play. It had to be someone with the right spirit. And if you know anything about frequencies, especially mastering houses and different things, they're able to put things in music to give music, flight, so that this particular music is meant to change a person in this way or that way. I'm going to tell you something. Now, this is a tripped out story. I was speaking in Topeka, Kansas, and Topeka, Kansas is considered the center of the United States. So I'm speaking, I'm doing the truth behind hip hop. And as I'm talking, there's a guy in the audience mouthing all of my words with me. It was weird. He's mouthing what I'm saying while I'm talking. And I'm just looking at him so I'm like, God, what is this? Do I need to stop the message and deal with this? And God said, no, just keep going. So I kept going. But every time I looked over at him, it's almost like he knew what I was about to say, or right after I said it, he mouthed it. Uh-huh. Probably looked worse to me than what it really was. I'm up, you up speaking, you'll know hey, do I need to deal with this or what? Yeah. And so after I finished, I did an altar call. He was the first person. He popped up, he jumped up, he ran up there, stood up there. He said, hey man, let me tell you. He said, I work for Africa Bambaataa. He said, I'm a part of the Zulu nation. He said, I moved here to Topeka, Kansas because this is the center of the United States. So the music I play here reverberates throughout the whole United States. He said, I'm positioned here. He said, I got records. He said, I got a record. If you want to get a job, you can play this record. He said, I got a record. If you're sick in your body, you can play these records. All of these frequencies are set in a way where they can do various things to a person. I was like, what in the world? So he went and got all those records, crates and crates, probably 1,000 records. Crates filled the whole stage. Prayed with him, cast the devil out, believe God with him, all of that. We leave the church, and the pastor said, no, leave all the records. Just leave everything here for we'll deal with it later. And then we were out eating somewhere, and the pastor said, man, we might need to go check the church. We went back to that church. All those records was gone. No sign of break-in. No, the law, nothing was triggered. Nothing. All those records were gone.
What do you think happened?
I think Satan took them back. I think Satan took them.
There was no entry. It was locked.
It was locked. It was locked. My wife, she's here. She was there. We couldn't figure out what happened. Nah, it's just a mystery.
And it was crates.
I mean, so many records, it would fill this room up. Yep, baby. Yeah, they fill this room up. And they were all gone. But that's how serious. So I said all that to answer your question.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing. We didn't know.
Oh my gosh.
We didn't know what they were doing. We didn't know the spirits that they were tapping into.
Oh my gosh.
We didn't know that they were gatekeepers. So we didn't know they were opening our youth up for what we're seeing right now. Now, what we're seeing right now is a generation that could care less about anything.
Wow.
Entitled, hatred, wrath, vengeance. That's what we're seeing. And they're expressing it by the way they look. They tat themselves up. Boys grow their long hair out in rebellion. And I tell people, black folk, you do that. I mean, the hair and this and that. Man, God specifically gave us a design he gave us gender markers.
Yes.
And he said, men, nature teaches us that men have short hair, women have long hair as gender. That's gender markers. That's how we mark our genders. That's being totally defied now.
What do you think about the feminization of men in hip hop? Would you have imagined that today you got rappers wearing skirts and dresses and they said they hiding guns in their dresses?
No, I said that back then. I knew that back then. It's in my videos back then. Yeah, Tupac put on a top and then tied it under like halter and then showed thug life and then tied a bandana to the front and then pierced his nose. It's a total woman. Ain't no thug. That's a jailhouse thug that's been passed around. That was the look. Cameron in the pink, fluffy, they were defying the gender markers. Because once you confuse the genders,
oh my God,
you stop procreation, you stop marriage, and you make the youth question.
So as you guys can see, this right here is deep on another level. I just want to know, how do you feel about it so far? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. This is something that needs to get out. So I need you to do me a favor. Hit the like button and hit that share button. Make sure that everybody gets this word, because we need to understand what's influencing the youth, and it's deeper than just the music. Let's continue.
Their orientation.
Oh my gosh. So you now have a desensitized youth. The youth are desensitized to these things. And now you ask a young kid, 90% would say, there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing wrong with that, because it's in the music. I kissed a girl and I liked it. It's all in the music. So back to hip hop in this way. You were saying a lot of stuff at that time, but I think right now is when we're seeing the worst of it.
Yes.
Back then it seemed to be more implicit.
It was a warning. I had to search for stuff back then. Like I had to catch them slipping. H to the Izzo, V to the Izzy was like the most popular song when I first started doing this. And the Lord spoke to me and said, he's spelling my name, Hova. He's calling himself Jehovah God. Nobody caught it. We just H to the Izzo, V to the Izzy. That's the anthem. Get them hands up. It was just, that it was ingrained in the music, but because it was to a beat, folks didn't stop to pay attention to the message that was being spoken. And so I started finding the Baphomet worship. I started finding the pentagrams. I started finding the things, the Def Jam stuff with Rick Rubin and those guys, all the devil worship. And then what's his name? Russell Simmons, worshiping a transcendental meditation and worship.
New Age.
and bringing that stuff into it. And now Beyonce bringing Yoruba and all of these things into it. So, during her concert, she was, with the Oshun and, all of that. That's the Yoruba stuff. So I've been, talking about it since part 1 of The Truth Behind Hip Hop. I'm at 14 now. I have 14 parts of this message, and each one of them reveals an in-depth part of the hip hop culture, what they are doing when they do what they do. So we're not talking about something that got corrupted. We're talking about a tool. It's always been a tool. And I'm going to talk about beats. I make beats. I make music, man. I can make some beats. It's not about beats. It's about what you attach to it or what you're using beats for.
Let me ask you this. One of the most shocking things that you were sharing was when you started to deal with Michael Jackson. That was one I've never forgotten. In fact, it was the Bone Thugs. I remember Bone Thugs. I remember Jay-Z. But Michael Jackson, that one is the one that threw me. Do you look back at that and say, hey, maybe I was going too hard. Maybe I was reading into it.
Well, they used some of it, my research in his court cases. So I don't think I was going too
really
hard. Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, and it was what God revealed to me that he was doing. And not just him, but anyone who, submits to the Aleister Crowley's, teachings, because he taught musicians how to channel an old one, Nephilim, old one, to become famous. And that's what people don't realize. Like, if Jay-Z or somebody walks in a room, people just faint or gasp or, oh,
yeah.
Beyonce walks in a room a whole night.
Yeah.
Them homosexuals.
Yeah.
You know how they do the Beehive folks. They just, and you wonder, like, because of music, the band director plays at the school. Ain't nobody screaming for Teacher Willie that teaches the choir. He got some nice music.
Yeah.
But nobody's screaming and falling out. There has to be something else. Where there is something else, these guys are taught by Aleister Crowley and the Law at the Lima and those things that he was into, talking to a spirit called Lim. He learned how to channel spirits from the flood. And so there are, through blood sacrifice, through pedophilia, through all of these things, these artists can welcome one of those old ones. Now, who are the old ones? These are the spirits from the angels that came down in Genesis 6, came down, mated with men, created beings. Those beings, God flooded the earth to destroy them. Some of them were 30 feet tall. Now, if you got a 30 foot tall being, he's going to get everybody's worship, And so these guys were used, these spirits were used to, or these Nephilim were used to getting praise and worship. They were gods, like Greek mythology and Roman mythology and even Yoruba mythology. These are all superhumans with superpowers, where they were half human, half angelic from another realm. Well, God drowned all of them during the flood. That's what the flood was for. That's why nobody could get in the ark with Noah, because everyone's blood was contaminated by this that had happened. And so nobody could get on the ark but Noah and his family, right? And so those, when they lost their bodies, their spirits were hybrid. So they can't go to heaven. They can't go to hell. They roam the earth. And that's why the Bible said they roam in they look for dry places. They're roaming the earth and they're looking for hosts. That was the creation of demons. They're not fallen angels. They're actually spirits, disembodied spirits. And so they're looking for bodies. Well, Aleister Crowley, Madame Blavatsky, those people that studied the Law of Thelema, those people that studied the mystic arts and some of the lost books of Solomon, which, you know, my part 14 of Truth Behind Hip Hop, I go in depth about Solomon. There's a lot about Solomon God showed me. Very interesting guy, to say the least. But they read his books, they get into his mysticism, and it taught them how to control spirits and welcome spirits in and become a host for them.
Oh my God.
Well, when these spirits that used to get that worship get in a person, now that person becomes polarizing. He walks in a room and everybody's like, oh, and music can't do that. A song, like if I release a song, that can't make you look at me that way. If I'm in a movie, that's not going to make you faint and pass out when you see me. There is a spiritual side of this because they've channeled an old one, and depending on which one it was, that's the level of, you know, a power that they're able to operate with. You know, as musicians and artists and different things. And so,
Yo, I speak in fair use for critiquing, criticism, and educational purposes. This right here is deep on another level, and the message needs to get out. This is what's influencing the younger generation. If you feel the same way, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comment, and make sure you subscribe to KMHP TV, where we give you that real over here and we expose the truth. Until the next video, I'ma holla back. Your boy Kaotic 1. Peace.